Hey, New Hope, it's Jeffrey and Joanne. We have James and Monica, one of the couples that has been with New Hope from the very beginning. You'll hear about our barbecue in a little bit. The vision of New Hope is this: it's people becoming the church. And we've said from the beginning, it's not rich people or poor people, super educated or it's people. It's just people becoming the church. And the two ways that we live this out, the on-ramps to this, is to present hope. Jesus is Lord, the hope of the world, and to develop people. That everyone has a part to play, and that part is significant. So when we look back at the journey already of 1 year of New Hope, we've seen people become the church. So here's a little bit of a glance back. The dream of planting New Hope Church was never about one church or even one campus. From the beginning, it was bigger than that. And Joanne and I were part of a conference where we were just continuing to dig deeper into what we felt like God was saying to us. And we wrote what we called our napkin dream, which we'll tell you more about later. But it was the idea of 5 and 5, that we felt like Jesus had called us to plant 5 churches in 5 years. And in order to plant 2 churches, you have to have one healthy one. And so at the 10-month mark, we launched our second campus in Sumner, which you'll see a little bit more of later. But before we could plant a church, we had to move. And after 16 years in the same house and 20 in the same community, we had to move to the South Hill.
And if you were to ask us what would be the worst time to actually move your teenage sons, it would really be the time that we did move them, right before their junior year and freshman year of high school. Definitely was a hard season for us, but one of the best decisions we ever made to just follow God's leading on our lives.
That's right. What was cool about this whole journey is we didn't have to go alone. And so immediately God began to bring people to walk with us. And so it started as Joanne and I, and it immediately became us. And that was a team. And so we look back and we see how God was orchestrating to bring couples to lift our arms, but also people with skills, with a passion and a heart to sacrifice. I think of Jeremy and Marisa joining the team early on. I met with Brad and Chantel for lunch about something else, and it was evident we need this couple on our team. We ran into Chris and April at a missions conference, and they helped launch the foundation of our kids ministry. Yes. Josh and Lacey drove over to meet with us about a different topic, and ended up saying we want to be a part of the team. And you think about the families and the couples in our neighborhood and our community, and it immediately became evident that this is bigger than 1 or 2 families. This is God's hand is on this. James and Monica have been a part of New Hope since the very, very beginning. And back when it was an idea, and it was a dream, nothing had happened. We hadn't started community groups. We haven't connected in any way. We had no public gatherings. But we said, you know what we should do? Let's do a barbecue. So at the South Hill Park, where later we would end up doing our day at the park, we got there together with what ended up being about 14 people. So what did we do there? Remind me.
I didn't really know where I was going or what I was doing. I was just showing up with some friends, heard there was a barbecue, started throwing a football, and then I noticed I didn't know who you were. Didn't know you were planning to plant a church or going to be the pastor of that church. And you started throwing the football with me, and I was like, this guy's got a good arm. I was like, I think I like what's going on right now.
I love it. So Monica, I know that you had met some folks who were serving with us at the time, Isaiah and Eddie Young, and they had connected with you.
Mm-hmm. And we became friends with them, and they're the ones that brought us to the barbecue. And really, when Jeffrey started talking about his vision and his dream for the South Hill and the surrounding areas, James and I immediately knew, one, God is in this, and we didn't know that we would necessarily be a part, but it was awesome to see people acting out what the Lord clearly called them to do.
So when you look back at the journey of this last year, you cannot help but talk about our strategic partners. our parent churches, those individuals who have significantly invested in us in prayer and in finances. And we want to say thank you. A couple of things that jump out. I was at a meeting of pastors getting coaching. We all want to be lifelong learners. And one of the questions that this guy named Don asked, he said, so what are your prayer points and what are your pinch points? And so we celebrated some prayer stuff. And he said, what's the pinch point? I'm like, we need a truck. We hadn't launched New Hope yet. We were trying to figure out how are we going to get stuff anywhere? Where are we going to even put stuff? We're a mobile church. And he says this, hey, I think I have something for you. Let's talk at the break. Well, at the break, he takes me outside and he shows me the truck that we park in front of the Regal Theater every day. And it's because of their generosity that we're transporting this equipment. Now, another one is Regal Theater. Nicole, one of the managers, came to our team and said, hey, are you guys okay with us putting a promo on the backside of the marquee that tells people about New Hope? We're like, yes. They're like, is the Pope Catholic? Yes, of course we're for that, you know? And I think about how that's had a trickle-down effect to our strategic partners every week at New Hope are called our volunteers. And it's the backbone of our ministry. You know, being a mobile church, we set up and we tear down every week, and not just one little area, but the nursery and early childhood and kids and youth and the gathering. And it takes dozens and dozens of volunteers. And I want to say thank you. We want to say on behalf of the pastoral staff and the leadership team, thank you. Your investment, it's people becoming the church, but we don't take it lightly, and it allows the mission to go forward. There are so many incredible things that have taken place this last year at New Hope and hopefully in your life. And undoubtedly, as we hit some of the high points along the way, we're going to miss a bunch of things. But here's a few of them that have stood out to us. The first day at the park.
Yeah, so I remember when James and I came to the first gathering for New Hope, and there were 14 of us at this park. And then just 11 months later, there's 300 of us there with over 50 volunteers, all showing the South Hill that we love them, and that we wanted to develop people and present hope to them.
In December, the first December at New Hope, we were able to be a part of the Big Give. And it was a time for us to be arrows out, even back to the birth date of New Hope, where we received an offering and everything was given away. We wanted to do that as part of the Big Give. And so $5,000 was the goal, and we wanted to just bless and be arrows out to not only our community, but to the missionaries that we support and the different organizations that New Hope believes in.
That's right.
And another great thing that happened in the last year is 19 people decided to be water baptized and 30 people decided to give their lives to Christ.
Wow.
And if anything else, looking back, like that is such a cool statistic, such a cool fact that people decided to turn from their old life, their old way of living, and moving forward with Jesus. And that's a true impact that New Hope has had in this last year. And it's just exciting to see what's to come in the next year.
That's right. That's presenting hope and developing people. One other thing we want to highlight was the launch of our Sumner campus. The 5 and 5 vision is more than an idea, and it's more than a dream. It's become a reality. And it's because we've had strategic partners and because we've had people of New Hope. It's because of other generous groups like Youth from Alabama invested $6,000 so we could purchase the equipment that launched our youth ministry that we use now for both our J-High ministry and for our Sumner campus. Now, we got there and realized there's nowhere for kids. And we began to pray as a team. We began to look for options. I remember we started with the idea of an RV. We thought that would work unless there's a fire, and then we're in the news for the wrong thing. And then we thought, well, maybe we should get a van with no windows. Obviously, I'm just kidding. We landed on, let's get a bus. And I remember Joanne and I were invited to dinner by Dean and Ann Curry, who pastor Tacoma Life Center. And he asked me this question at lunch. He said, Jeffrey, what do you need? And here's what we said: we need a bus. A week later, he called and said, I think I have something for you. That bus that Tacoma Life Center donated would become our mobile kids ministry. And you see pictures of it here, and you see the impact it's having as we've launched our Sumner campus. It's the beginning of what is to come.
When we look back at the last year, we see a lot of people that are all in.
Yeah.
And that looks like GPS. They give, they pray, and they serve. And we just want to say thank you.
So when we talk about presenting hope and developing people, you've heard about the bike, and that the two pedals that are moving the mission forward and us as followers of Jesus forward is gatherings and groups. And those groups are where people get together. We talk about you can't build relationships in rows. You got to get out of rows and get into groups, get into circles, gather around a table, enjoy life together. James and Monica have apprenticed in a community group, and they've also led one, and they're doing a fantastic job. So tell us a little bit of your story of engaging in community groups.
Yeah, so when we started, we knew what the value of community groups were. We both came from a very large church, and looking back at that church, some of our best relationships and best friends today came from those community groups. So just thinking, when we apprenticed a group and then led a group, we developed some relationships that we know are going to be more than just a hey, how are you, but we have a thorough, deep friendship with these people. And that comes from those community groups, and that's what we really experience leading and apprenticing in the community groups at New Hope. One of the key verses at New Hope lands on this truth, that you're not stuck where you used to be.
It's 2 Corinthians 5:17, and it says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come."
That's a reminder for every one of us, whether you've been in church your whole life or you're brand new to New Hope. We're not trapped, we're not stuck, and the best is yet to come.
One of our prayers for you, New Hope, is the prayer that Moses prayed. Unless your presence goes with us, Lord, do not send us up from here.
And that's a confidence we have as followers of Jesus, whether you're new to New Hope or you're new to Jesus, is that he's with us.
Yes.
This promise, he says, I will never leave you and I'll never forsake you. And that's undoubtedly been our story the first year, and it will be our story as we continue in the days ahead.